bloodlines only ever came from women. Matriarchal societies, bloodlines came from women only because women are the ones who bleed. Women bleed every month. They bleed without dying. They were the priestesses. They were the healers in certain lineages. That idea of bloodlines were stolen and it was reinvented to mean what you think it means today. That was the inversion. Bloodlines had nothing to do with genetic coding and giving birth and being in families to keep the family pure. That crap. That's the inversion. If you were in a, quote, bloodline, it meant you were in a lineage led by the divine priestesses, dragon priestesses, healers, women who were in oneness, teaching through energetic codes. Bloodlines were priestess, women-led lineages, and all the lineages were led by women, and it doesn't mean men didn't have high roles along with women in these lineages.
Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast. I'm Rachel Fiori, and I am ready to dive in and talk about bloodlines. Let's talk about what this really is. We hear about bloodlines all of the time. We are going to talk about some fun stuff, and I'm going to hope that this doesn't get taken down before people have a chance to listen and hear the truth here. We're going to talk about the truth and the inversion. We're going to talk about dragon bloodlines. We are going to talk about the inversion of what the truth is, because as we should know by now, if you've been listening long enough, especially if you're a student at Masters of Self University, our metaphysical school of oneness, remember the old earth, what patriarchy is. It is a complete inversion of how we are meant to live our divine selves, expressing ourselves, our divine souls, expressing ourselves in human form. Patriarchy is a complete inversion of that. We cannot be powerful divine selves in a patriarchal world because we couldn't be slaves, right? So really remember that. So all of the ways that the old earth, the reign of patriarchy, that domination, that enslavement system traps people, brainwashes, dumps down, all of the systems put in place to keep you in suffering, to, steal your life force energy. All of those things, including all the truth, is taken, twisted, inverted. If you don't know the difference and you think all these lies and how we live is just the truth of what things are, you're just brainwashed and mind controlled. You're not going to fight against a system that you have no clue has enslaved you. Okay, so what's the inversion of some of these things, especially when we talk about bloodlines? So let's mention this first. When we think about bloodlines, a lot of you often think of royalty. What are the royal bloodlines? We want to keep that blood very pure. All these are twisted. These are all terms and things that existed that have none of these patriarchal meanings to them in truth as the way of truth. Okay, so let's be clear on that first. And again, that is done on purpose so that you then learn the false, bullshit, made up, inverted definitions of these things. You experience them in our world. And if you ever begin to wake up for real, truly wake up, you still won't be able to, because you will believe that bloodlines and royalty and all these different things are poison and evil and dangerous, and you'll never wake up to the actual truth of what they are. Let me keep explaining so that you understand, okay? Stay with me. So, bloodlines. Those of you who really have been waking up and you understand at higher levels, you understand a little bit more about the parasitic families that rule the whole world. Call them elites. They're parasites. So I say elites only because most people call them that. They're not actually elites. We're the elites. If we were not extremely powerful and divine, they wouldn't have to enslave us. They could just live in harmony with us. They don't. They're parasites. They steal from us. They enslave us. Got it? So the parasites, I'm referring to what we consider and most people call the elites of the world. Those bloodlines, okay? Around 100 or so families. I don't know the exact number. I don't pretend to know the exact number, but that's the number around there that's been reported over and over and over for, decades now. And you know what some of them are, what some of those families are, the names of them. I'm not going to say them here. Those families, we consider those to be bloodlines, where they only, they're very selective in how they, and I'm going to say breed, because they're not normal, healthy, like divine humans. They breed and try to keep their bloodline, quote unquote, pure. And then they pass down, satanic, ritualistic abuse and different things. Mind control, torture. They set up the next generation and the next generation and the next generation of people to take over all the governments all over the world, leadership positions all over the world, anything that has to do with controlling a population of people. They insert themselves, rape. They forcefully insert themselves. That's that toxic, masculine, forceful domination energy. That's patriarchy. They insert themselves and force themselves into all of these major positions all over the world, in whatever country and whatever type of government that particular country has. All of the quote unquote royal bloodlines, all of the parasitic or quote unquote elite bloodlines, that is usually what people think about because they're waking up and learning all of this stuff. And I have to reference that first before I actually teach you the truth. So that exists and that's real. Yes. Entertainment purposes only here, right? Let's say that out loud. So y'all know that stuff exists. I'm not going to spend too much more time on that. I just have to reference that first before I give you the actual truth. Remember, patriarchy is an inversion, right? So what are bloodlines? Where did that come from? Oh, you ready? Take a deep breath, drop into your heart, activate your heart chakras, grow your light. Bloodlines only ever came from women. Matriarchal societies, bloodlines came from women only because women are the ones who bleed. Women bleed every month. They bleed without dying. They were the priestesses. They were the healers in certain lineages. If you were in a quote unquote bloodline, it meant you were in a lineage led by the divine priestesses, dragon priestesses, healers, women who were in oneness, teaching through energetic codes, elevating, supporting. All of the teachings of a certain quote unquote bloodline is not about heterosexual couples coming together, having sex, and then the man does, what do you do there? Have an orgasm. Okay, good for you, fun for you. The woman sacrifices her entire physical body, brings forth life by combining a fractal of the goddess, the one creator of all, herself, brings that soul into her own physical body, combines it with physical matter. She creates that life. She nurtures that life. She gives birth to that life. And then you take the man's last name. The child gets the man's name. That never fucking happened in enlightened societies. It doesn't make sense. if you're going to sacrifice 10 months of carrying, growing, nurturing, and supporting life inside of your own physical body, and sacrifice your own physical body, sacrifice your own safety in order to carry that baby, you're going to risk death just by being pregnant and carrying that baby. The last name is given to that baby from the woman. It was always the woman's name. I digress. That aside, the bloodlines had nothing to do with giving birth and carrying some man who didn't do much of anything but have an orgasm. You give him the last name, and these are bloodlines, or these are heterosexual couples that come together and have children, and that's the bloodline. That idea of bloodlines were stolen, and it was reinvented to mean what you think it means today. That was the inversion. So let me say this again and make this clear so you understand it, because you maybe never have heard this before. Highly doubt you have. Bloodlines had nothing to do with genetic coding and giving birth and being in families to keep the family pure. That crap. That's the inversion. Bloodlines were priestess, women-led lineages. And all the lineages were led by women, and it doesn't mean men didn't have high roles along with women in these lineages. You're enlightened enough and you're elevated enough and you're a being of oneness, of course you're a part of it. That's what oneness is. Matriarchy isn't patriarchy inverted. That's not how divine women run things. Remember, and I've taught this on previous podcasts before, the matriarch, that is oneness. Divine feminine energy is oneness. It is the energy that gave birth to all of us. She is the goddess. There is no such thing as a fucking god like you think that you've been taught and brainwashed to believe. He doesn't fucking exist. Satan, the god of the Bible, exists. It's made up. And you were all brainwashed to believe in that crap. There's no such thing. Father doesn't give fucking birth. Hello? Like, let's use some common sense at least. Okay? So lineages, bloodlines, even royalty, what was considered royalty? Again, another hijacked word, twisted, inverted, ruined, destroying the feminine, what the feminine was. What it is, it's just been hidden. Okay? Never died, but it's been hidden for centuries. Royalty referred to the priestesses that were the leaders, again, rulers even. That's been hijacked and distorted and made as a dominating, horrible superiority bullshit crap by patriarchy. So even like almost any word that I could use to try to get you to understand and teach you, they've been raped, inverted, forced into a different meaning that was never the way of truth. Okay, so the priestesses were these leaders, these woman leaders. The bloodlines were because they were the leaders of a lineage where they taught the healings, they taught the codes, they taught the wisdom in all varying ways. And a lot of the ways that they taught, when they taught using their voice and they're actually teaching and guiding, or they were healing, sometimes in complete silence and saying anything. And teaching in whatever way is appropriate for the people in front of you, because sacred wisdom is sacred wisdom, and you show up how the people in front of you need, what they need from you in order for them to receive the teachings, the guidance, in order to rise higher, in order to elevate, in order to become a higher frequency. Those energetic codes are passed from your physical body to theirs, from the priestess's physical body to theirs. Okay, so I'm passing codes and teachings to you, from my soul to you, from my enlightened energetic frequencies of oneness to you, to your energetic fields, to your body, to your soul. Understand? Codes are passed through energetically, vibrationally. It travels with the voice. Codes are passed through the voice and travels with the voice to your ears where you receive it. So while you listen with your physical ears, your ear chakras take in the codes. Okay? Those are bloodlines. Royal bloodlines were the priestesses that were quote unquote in charge, or the leaders of, or the rulers of these bloodlines, of these lineages. And in this lineage, like in a dragon priestess lineage, this is transmutation. These are the priestesses who are one in oneness with. Remember, why women? The bloodlines are because we are the ones who bleed. That's why they're called bloodlines. What is the bloodline of this particular lineage or that particular lineage? It was a soul's devotion. You as a human being choosing to devote yourself, not to the priestess, like you're some inferior, worthless crap. Again, bullshit patriarchy, religion, what they teach you. This is oneness. It's you're not yet in a place where you're as elevated. So the sacred wisdom, while you are learning, growing, healing, elevating, becoming the sacred wisdom itself, herself as well, the royal bloodline, the royalty, were the women that were teaching and offering you these codes and guiding you and helping you and assisting you and doing all the things, pointing out where you're messing it up and getting it wrong, and then guiding you through the activations of these codes, guiding you through the dragon fire of burning away the false you, the shadow self, entering into your own darkness and activating the dragon bloodline, for example, of burning away all that is the false you that's trying to take over and come online. That egoic self, that shadow self, your programming, your powerlessness, your fear of using your voice, et cetera, whatever it is. So to be in a lineage, again, patriarchy shows up and hijacks all of this and takes all of the things, mimics, because that's all they can do is mimic. They mimic what bloodlines were. They mimic what royalty was. This is the inversion. And then they do very sadistic, horrible, evil things. And they keep teaching secret, how to work with energy, top secret, only for themselves, only for the quote unquote elites, the parasites. So as they destroyed these things over the years, over the decades, over the centuries, just removing the actual truth and then inverting the truth so that you gain a new definition of what bloodline means, of what royalty means. And they made it toxic and horrible, of course, because that's what patriarchy is. So if you start to wake up for real, and you're like, oh my God, the royal family and the bloodlines and the elite bloodlines and blah, blah, blah. Then you also, if you hear anybody talking, especially a woman, if you hear anybody using these words, but you're kind of waking up for real, remember, they knew way before you knew that you were going to start waking up, and they throw out the nets to catch you and trap you and make sure you don't, or make sure you don't go any higher. So anybody talking about dragons or bloodlines or royalty, those are trigger words done on purpose as part of the global mind control and brainwashing. That it's evil, that it's demonic. Yeah, because every dragon, the dragon bloodlines, all the priestesses, all the feminine was taken, demonized, destroyed, desecrated, raped, and all those things were done to her in order for patriarchy to dominate and take over and siphon all of her energy so that it can fuel itself. And so that when you start waking up for real and you hear these terms and these words, oh my God, that must be a cult. So fucking stupid. Oh. And you fall for the goddamn trap. You're already in the cult. That's called patriarchy. It's the true education to get yourself unplugged from it. That isn't going to happen overnight. It isn't going to happen by listening to one podcast episode or by doing a fucking plant medicine journey, or it takes time, willingness, devotion, the way of loyalty. You have to become the way of loyalty. Okay. So understand then when it comes to goddesses and powerful, powerful beings. All of this patriarchy destroys and desecrates feminine. Feminine is the creator, period, end. You don't exist without her. Here's the truth. If I were to push a button right now on this planet and every woman, including myself, every woman, every biological woman completely disappeared and vanished off this planet, the entire planet would fucking die. All feminine energy gone, all women gone, the planet would die. Nothing exists. Everything is feminine energy, so nothing can exist without it. Men would die out. They would die off. Now they would probably, do a lot of sick things to create more, robotic dolls to fuck and rape and do all the things that they can do. They would try to harbor, through technology and labs to create babies and more, they would do all these sadistic, horrible, fucked up things. They can't live and survive. They would die out. No matter what they could technology-wise do to delay it for a while, they would die out. You can't live. There is no life without feminine energy. Okay? Now, poof, all the women are back. Feminine energy on the planet is back. Life can now be sustained. And I'm going to push another button. And all the men on the planet are going to disappear. This planet would regenerate in a matter of a few years, and it would thrive, and it would be healthy, and it would be a beautiful planet of oneness. Sorry for you men that are really healing and elevating and wonderful. You're gone too. Remember, I even made myself disappear in the first example. All men are gone. What would happen? The planet would thrive. Why? Masculine energy isn't what creates or sustains life. Let it sink in. And no, women don't need men to have babies. That's insane. That's part of the ripping the truth out and hiding all of the truth of parthenogenesis. That's how, when this was a feminine planet, it's still a feminine planet, but when there were women only that lived on this planet and ruled this planet in oneness, how do you think they gave birth? Parthenogenesis. Oh, can you find that in history books? Good luck. Ripped out of there for a reason. You might have heard of Immaculate Conception of Jesus Christ, all that crap that they twist around. Mother Mary was a part of a bloodline lineage of priestesses. Mary Magdalene was a part of a bloodline of priestesses, meaning the teachings, the codes, what they taught, what they embodied, what they became, they shared. That was a dragon lineage, by the way, Mary Magdalene. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but I'm not going to go deep into that in this episode. But I want you to just really understand and let it sink in here that bloodlines, royalty, what dragons were existed and helped create Earth. Dragon did create Earth, and a lot of people in the story of Tiamat, murdered by her own son. That story of Tiamat, that goddess, is a goddess that when she was murdered, that story, I'm going to call it mythology, her whole body became Earth, became Mother Earth. Mother Earth is called a lot of different things by a lot of different cultures and groups of people in history, but the name changed, like it's Greek mythology of where Gaia comes from. That's not the original name of Earth, by the way. That's not the original name of the goddess who created Earth. And by the way, goddess, as we are inverting what feminine energy is, remember this. Think of a goddess. Think of a picture of any goddess. Go on the internet and search goddess and look at images. Like almost every single one of them shows up in this really misogynistic, sexist way. They're all, these sexy, they look like they could be these models that don't really exist, had all this work done to make them look that way. Voluptuous breasts and hips and long, thick hips. Like they all look like porn stars, basically, like classy porn stars for the most part. That's how look at all the pictures on social media that they show goddesses. What do they fucking look like? We don't live in a world of patriarchy and sexism. Get out of here. Goddesses weren't even human. They were dragons. They were different types of beings. A goddess doesn't mean it is just someone that looks like a woman and someone that looks like a sexy stripper porn star woman. Like, how stupid are we? Go on. Goddesses weren't even in a woman form. Some were, 100% some were. Others were not. But again, in order to desecrate the feminine, we have to tell lies about her and destroy her and turn her into a demon. We have to demonize her and do all the things. Here's one example of that. The divine feminine energy is chaotic. It's chaos energy. No, it fucking isn't. That's just misogyny and sexism. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. You're contributing to your misogynistic conditioned self if you say crap like that, and that doesn't even make any sense. Divine feminine energy is not chaotic at all. It's undomesticated. Oh, do you hear what I just said? Divine feminine is undomesticated. It isn't subservient. It isn't a fucking slave to a man. So in our sexist, misogynistic society, saying divine feminine energy is chaotic. Sexist can you get? No, it's undomesticated. It doesn't bow to men. Well, of course, in a patriarchal society, we're then going to say that it's chaotic. Make sense? Before patriarchal cult religions existed, the dragon existed. Womb existed before it existed in woman in human form. There was no Father God, only the original creator, Mother Goddess. There was the mother, the original creator of all. That's what gives birth. Okay. And yeah, this energy creates and it destroys and it burns away lies. It's a powerful original energy, the light, the original light. So if you're coming from ego and fear, you're going to fear that level of power. You're also likely going to covet it. And since it can't actually be destroyed, it is your creator. Remember my example of if we had men disappear, the planet would thrive. We don't need masculine energy to live. We don't need men to survive. They're the ones killing us off and killing off the planet. That toxic, masculine, domineering, patriarchal energy. Okay, feminine, it has nothing to do with if you wear lipstick or makeup or do your nails. It's not about a sexy dress. Those are social constructs to destroy what the fucking feminine energy actually is and means, what divine feminine is. The reason why so many men on this planet, brainwashed by patriarchy, are toxic and unhealed and violent and aggressive and rape and destroy is because they have no idea what divine feminine energy is, and they've learned how to destroy it and desecrate it within themselves. Feminine can live and exist without the masculine. Masculine was birthed from the feminine. It isn't needed to survive. Let it sink in. Okay? The original creations from the original life herself, the creator of all, the one, created certain goddesses, created certain beings like Tiamat, for example. This primal, ancient force, power, energy, consciousness, of course, is going to be seen as chaos and scary by the patriarchy. Tiamat, if you look up what this means, and again, there's always going to be poison and distorted distortions and all the things are going to be in there too, of course, right? But Tiamat is considered to be like the primordial ocean. What are they? Goddess of the sea, goddess of the sea. I was trying to think of the phrase that is often associated with her. She's often called the goddess of the sea. Okay, this can be very symbolic because what does that really mean? She's an ocean of potentiality. An ocean goddess is another way that they can phrase it sometimes when you read about Tiamat. But this means an ocean of potentiality. She is the potentiality. She represents a womb, the water, the womb that gives birth to something new. She gives birth. She supposedly gave birth to all the first gods that existed. Gods meaning the beings that she gave birth to that had power, that then had their own separate life away from her, the creator. Do you understand? Okay. She was demonized at a certain point. She was torn apart. She was murdered. And there's a lot of different stories that say when Murdoch murdered her and then made Earth with her body, or she formed Earth, or there's other dragons that breathe life into planet Earth to create planet Earth for what was. There's a lot of mythology, a lot of half-truths. I'm just letting you know that that's some of the stuff out there so that you have a reference point when I talk about some of this stuff. Okay. But understand what the feminine actually is. It's not about being pretty. It's not about showing your tits off. It's not about wearing your thong bikini and showing off your ass to please men. It has nothing to do with what you look like. Those are social, misogynistic concepts, and you can wear whatever kind of bikini you want to wear, by the way. It doesn't matter. You wear a sweatsuit to the beach if you want to. You can have your whole ass hanging out if you want to. That has nothing to do with anything. That's not what feminine energy is, though. You're brainwashed to objectify any woman in human form so that you can objectify and desecrate and demonize what the divine feminine is. The feminine was violently erased. The divine feminine was erased from humanity, from the earth. Has been for centuries. Matriarchal cultures, Neolithic matriarchal cultures, honored Earth's cycles, were in sync with Earth, because Earth is feminine. We're in sync with Earth's cycles, which means women who were the leaders and the healers and the teachers and the priestesses honored their own cycles. Sacred wisdom, stem cells are in, regenerative cells are in a woman's menstrual blood, that is sacred blood. Because women bleed, and because they were the priestesses in matriarchal societies, those are where bloodlines came from. So when you chose to learn about this lineage and become a devotee, you're becoming an embodiment of that lineage. All the sacred teachings that come from the women and men, because there were men that taught alongside of them. Of course, this is oneness, but it was women were the main leaders because women are oneness, period, end. That is just the truth. They were the main leaders in a matriarchal society. But the sacred wisdom, the teachings of how to embody this, how to heal, how to elevate, how to raise your level of consciousness, all the things that come. This, for example, is a bloodline. It is a sacred bloodline, royal lineage of ancient teachings from matriarchal society, right? And all of this is all wiped from memory, from maps, from truth, from teachings. Literally, the cross, the symbol of the cross that you get from patriarchal brainwashing cult religions, call them religions, those are the cults. The cross replaced the womb. Every symbology represented the woman's womb, the goddess womb, Everything was traced back to that. The bloodlines came back to the woman's womb, because that is the sacred space where creation happens and birth is given. And that means literal life. That means manifestation and creation of whatever you want to create and manifest and experience in this reality. It always comes from the womb chakra and the living womb of woman. It comes from the womb of the creator herself, birthing new things, new goddesses, new beings into existence. So the womb was the most sacred symbol that existed. It makes sense why. But the fear of the feminine was planted and layered into what we call scriptures, and then these sadistic rituals that are satanic rituals that we call holy rituals, and stories, and you'd scare children with them, and Tiamat's a scary 5-headed dragon monster, because of course she was turned into a monster. Dragons were turned into these demons and these horrible monstrous things that eat people. None of this, of course, is truth, but this is what patriarchy did. Right? Lilith, think about the story of Lilith. Lilith said no. Okay, now she's cast out as a demon. She's not a demon. She walked away and said, fuck you. So in our patriarchal society, a woman who owns her power needs to be corrected, needs to be put in her place, needs to be controlled, needs to be erased. All the truth stories about goddesses, the creators, what we would honor in a very sacred way. And symbols for feminine is the creator. Of course, they destroyed that, took that, and replaced it with a cross. 2 dicks, 2 sticks. Instead of a circular, round, soft, something that has curves that represents the womb. We take 2 things that penetrate, stab into things. You see what was done? So all of these things over the years, over the decades, over the centuries, to desecrate what the feminine energy. Men, listen to me carefully. Your healing, your elevation does not occur without the feminine energy that you are. So the more you dismiss women, objectify them, the more you are, if you're heterosexual, the more that you are addicted to porn and objectify and abuse women in those ways. The more that you participate in patriarchy and stay plugged in and all the misogyny and blah, 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 what you're doing is destroying yourself. You've already done it. When you do that outwardly, you're doing it to the feminine inside of you. You have learned very early on, from early childhood, to psychologically abuse yourself. You've severed yourself off from the feminine creator that is you. You were born with that energy. That is part of the divine you. It is the main part of divine you. It's not about wearing a fucking skirt, putting goddamn lipstick on. That's not what feminine energy is. So men in a patriarchal society, little boys are taught you're not allowed to feel what you feel. And yet you have normal human emotions. We all do. Emotions are powerful. They're symbolic. They're energetic coding. The depths of what emotions actually are, they are energetic frequencies. They're streams of consciousness that we can learn to utilize, to create, to heal, to manifest, and all these beautiful things when we learn how to work with higher levels of energetics. Okay, but you were taught ignore, suppress, judge, criticize, sever, destroy, rape, abuse yourself, the feminine within yourself. That means when you're totally disconnected from your feminine aspect, the creator aspect of you, and you're trapped in your minds, because this is where they want you, All of these are spells that they've cast over the generations and the centuries. You're trapped in just your mind so that you don't learn how to embody anything that is divine or sacred. And that when all the frequencies, all the spell casting, all of the things that they do to brainwash and mind control, you can't tell the fucking difference because you're not in your body feeling and allowing that powerful emotion to teach you and guide you in any given moment. Okay, so now, like our wounds, they're not curses, they're not negative, they're not terrible. They're invitations to transform. Feminine energy transforms, feminine energy heals. Dragon fire, when you are the bloodline, you are a part of dragon bloodlines, these priestess lineages. When you are a part of this, you learn how to transmute. You move through the alchemy process, the transmutation process. Dragon fire in these teachings, when you learn how to do all of this, these were the codes and the methods and the things that were taught through sacred teachings, sacred ceremonies, sacred rituals. Priestesses taught this so that you could embody it, integrate it, and embody it and become more divinely powerful yourself. Which is why one of the most direct paths back to your own divinity, which is her, but within yourself, to reconnect to that within yourself, is through your body, and it is through feeling. This is where, again, another distortion, another thing that they picked, they took patriarchy, took this and distorted it and fucked it all up. Your body is a sacred temple. In priestess lineages, you were taught that your body is the temple that your soul moves through in a lifetime. And therefore, your body was sacred. Your body is the altar. So how do you treat your body? You don't put poison in it. You honor it. You bring love to it and nurturing to it. Your physical body receives at the cellular level and at the level of DNA, receives energetic codes to heal, to transform, to adapt, to evolve, to move through a metamorphosis. All of that's feminine coding. So to connect to your body and come back to your body and start to learn these sacred teachings and the sacred coding that comes from, again, in ancient times, and it exists right now, to follow the dragon priestess, that bloodline, means that you want to learn how to become this, how to heal, how to unplug from patriarchy, how to unplug from that old earth matrix, you want that to cease to exist. And that only ceases to exist by your own metamorphosis of becoming a being of oneness consciousness. The universal waves of oneness, these are how beings like dragons already function as these enlightened frequencies. They're pure. These are how priestesses and goddesses like Tiamat, like Barbelo, like Sophia, like Hecate, not a witch, she's goddess of magic and she who has many names, Hecate. Again, more distortion, dark goddesses. Get the fuck out of here. You're still brainwashed. Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, they were both part of two different priestess lineage. They were different. And they knew things like Mother Mary, for example, greatest, most powerful avatar that has ever walked this goddamn planet. You'd never know that by what patriarchy did to her. Her mother gave birth and knew who she was going to give birth to. And it was not her only child. She had other children with her husband. But Mother Mary, her mother, gave birth to her through this priestess lineage of priestesses who gave birth via parthenogenesis. That was one particular, and not only one, don't misunderstand me, I'm just giving this one example. But this was one particular priestess lineage of powerful, divine, sacred healers, women who cultivated women through parthenogenesis, taught, shared sacred teachings. They developed superpowers, literally superhuman powers. Anything that you've ever read about Yeshua, about Jesus, about the Christ, his mother could do that times 10. She was the most powerful avatar. Jesus the Christ, or Yeshua, whatever you want to call him, was not. But you'd never know that, would you? So, Mother Mary's mother, Jesus' grandma, knew she was going to give birth to this powerful avatar, and that powerful avatar was through prophetic vision. These were prophets. Do you understand? All of their oracles, their prophets. This is what a sacred bloodline lineage is filled with. They are filled with prophets, healers, oracles, priestesses. That's what these priestesses are, variations of all these different things. And then they teach other people how to activate all of these beautiful gifts and then live their own unique human life with their gifts cultivated, but coming from a place of oneness, the ways of oneness, not to be used for evil and domination and dark anything. Do you understand? So this priestess lineage, where in this particular priestess lineage, the powerful healers and oracles and prophets and avatars that they knew that Mother Mary, she was being birthed and brought forth to learn, to teach, to gain all of these superhuman powers in order to then give birth through parthenogenesis, to give birth to who would become the Messiah. And of course, during those times, it was really dangerous for women. Big surprise there, because it was a patriarchal society. That Messiah had to be a man during that time. Had to be. And he was murdered and tortured, as we all know, right? But he was going to live longer and be able to do what he was able to do as a man and get away with it longer than a woman. There's no chance. No chance. Okay, so it was all done on purpose. Like that was the prophecy, and it was generations of preparing, generations plural of preparing with the powerful avatars that were going to bring forth the next avatar, all through parthenogenesis. After Mother Mary was born, her mother with her husband then had regular sexual intercourse. They had more children, and they had more children. She chose to have children with him and include him on the birthing process. The parthenogenesis, no man is ever involved in any of that crap. And again, take a piece from the pure, ancient, enlightened, oneness cultures of society, enlightened culture society, which were matriarchs. Take a piece, distort it, and fuck it all up. This is where they took a piece of like what virgins were, and in the religious patriarchal societies, they brainwash and they turn you it's so important to be a virgin. You shouldn't have sex before you get married. They took this from the priestesses and these lineages of women, of matriarchal lineages, of where they wouldn't have sex prior to, if they're in a lineage where that woman is choosing to bring forth a powerful, powerful being to the planet to help the planet heal and have a new sacred teacher and blah, blah, blah. The purest form of that is through parthenogenesis. That means that obviously you are, in the sense, you haven't had sexual intercourse. And no, it doesn't mean it's bad or wrong. And for those priestess lineages, typically that a woman would go through this and she knows her purpose and she understands it and she chooses it willingly. This isn't forced. This isn't fucking what you see patriarchy doing, where they sadistically torture people that they give birth to and raise them in these crazy psychotic cults. And then they brainwash them and force them into being people in governments and blah, 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 church leaders and all these things. None of this is forced. That's patriarchy does that psychotic, sadistic crap. matriarch doesn't do any of that. We're beings of oneness. So you still get to choose. And if you choose, I'm going to choose differently on my path, then you choose differently on your path. And then the soul that's going to come through is going to come through somebody else. It doesn't mean you can't give birth to an avatar. It doesn't mean you can't give birth to a powerful being. But when you get your energetic coding from another human being that joins with you in the way that energies join together, then the child that comes from that could end up being a very powerful, sacred teacher, being, avatar, oracle, prophet, messiah, etc., etc. It doesn't mean they can't. It means it's a lot more work to get out of the energetic genetic coding that came from a second being involved. In this case, of course, it would be a man. So to just eliminate that and make it easier for the path of the person who's meant to actually become an avatar, a messiah, a prophet, an oracle, blah, 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 you eliminate all of that together. So a lot of times what would happen is, in these types of priestesses, where the parthenogenesis was a major thing that they did, and how they brought life forward. And all women brought life forward that way naturally before the patriarchal domination, rape, and all that crap occurred, and then men existed suddenly on the planet. But these priestesses held these lineages in place for as long as they could. I want you to understand the difference, okay? So in saying that, these priestesses held that for a reason. So they had no, you could even be married, but they would have no men involved in any kind of sexual activity until they brought forth, through parthenogenesis, the baby that was meant to be brought forth. Now, if you were in a loving, marriage of choice, obviously, and then you chose to have more children with your husband, and your husband wanted to have more children with you, and you both decided in oneness, yes, let's have more kids now, then you would do that. And that was fine. That's beautiful to do that. Okay, but you served what you knew your soul came here to do, which was give birth to this baby who was meant to be, a powerful healer. Again, a prophet, an oracle, a messiah, a whatever. Powerful, powerful healers that was easier for them to have superhuman powers. I'm simplifying, but you get the point. Okay? So a lot of these teachings, in order to make sure you'd never wake up to them, they all got turned into myth and mythical stuff. That's part of the brainwashing and what they've done. They kind of sort of tell you pieces of truth about dragons and different things. But again, they distort everything. They steal from the feminine and matriarchal cultures and enlightened cultures that existed. They steal, and then they distort, and they poison. They force, they insert themselves, they rape it. Literally, patriarchy is rape culture. Think about if you've ever learned sales. Any of you that do sales related, especially if you're older, you're especially if you're like late, I would say even mid-30s, but older than that. Anything older than that, right? If you ever went into sales and you learned old sales techniques, they still teach them today. Of course, moral is still mostly patriarchy, even though we're splitting. They teach you to force, don't take no for an answer. Force it, convince them. There's no honoring in it. It's rape. It's rape culture. That's what everything is. So they've taken these things, they've completely raped it, inserted themselves into it, and then distorted it and made it dysfunctional and unhealthy and unloving and lacking oneness, and severed everybody off from the divine feminine that they all come from. Right? So your path back to rediscovering her, not her. Patriarchy teaches you God outside of yourself. The creator, you're an extension of her. That is inside of you. That is a part of every being. Period. End. Right? So women, for you to activate that and connect. Now, we teach everybody to first start with dropping into your heart, connecting to your heart. Okay? Energetically. So men, you can place your hands on your heart. You can really feel in the center of your heart chakra. You activate your light. You connect to that place energetically, and you grow your light from that place. Okay. I teach women and men exactly the same, to start there always, because that's where your soul enters into your physical body. Your soul's guidance, the sacred codes come through your heart chakra. You're supposed to be heart-centered beings. The second step would be then for women, you then place your hands on your physical womb and you start to learn what your womb chakra is, around where your sacral chakra is, right? So the sacral, as most of you know, is going to be your lower abdomen, men and women. Okay. Men, I don't care what people, distorted male gurus in parts of the world have fucking stolen and hijacked like patriarchy does and try to say that men have womb chakras too. No, you fucking don't. I'm just going to leave that there. Men are supposed to connect to their heart chakras. Women are too, but women are then also supposed to connect to their womb chakra, their sacred womb chakra. Okay, the energetic creation of all things. Okay, and the reason why certain teachers in the world, by the way, teach the womb chakra and say that men have it too, and then they turn right around and teach you that men have to siphon energy from their mother's womb. All this crap. Like, wait, what? You don't have a womb chakra. Men are supposed to create from their hearts. Connect to your heart energy. That's how you bring the divine feminine back online for you as men. Now, women are often, because we've been in patriarchy for so long, are often in very distorted, toxic masculine energies as well. And so that's why I always have men and women always start in the heart. Okay. Secondly, the reason why I start there is for women, there's so much symbolic and literal rape of the feminine and of the female woman, the biological woman, in woman form, in human form, in every way, shape, or form. Physically, literally, psychologically, there's rape. And so I never first start with women in their healing and their elevation with going straight to their wombs or their womb chakras. No, not from me. I do that for a reason, because I am the way of wisdom and the way of unconditional love. We need to start in our hearts and then become powerful enough by elevating all the classes that we teach at Masters of Self University. And then at some point, women, it's time, after you're powerful and you have a lot of your traumas healed, then we go to the womb and the womb chakra, and then we do work there. That's how I teach it, just to be clear on that. Okay. So I'm going to mention Tiamat again, because Tiamat is the goddess of the sea, the really the oceanic potential, the ocean of potential, of potentiality. Okay. But these are the goddesses, these are the beings that patriarchy said are chaotic and disorganized and monstrous. No, they weren't. They were undomesticated. The feminine isn't messy and chaotic. The feminine is mystical. The feminine is one with all things that can't be understood by the measly pea-brain little mind that humans have. She's beyond that. She's the original creator of all. Of course, our minds would have a hard time comprehending her and then become afraid of her. The feminine is unfiltered. She isn't quiet and subservient. She's unfiltered. She speaks in symbols. She speaks in emotions. She doesn't speak in bullet points. She speaks in rhythm. She speaks in energy, through feeling, through cycles. She teaches through cycles. Okay. She is motherfucking unapologetic. This is the divine feminine in all humans, if you're connected to what divine feminine energy actually is. She doesn't fucking apologize for who and what she is. She doesn't apologize for her power. She doesn't tone herself down and fit in some fucking box that you tell her she's supposed to fit in. Does the ocean apologize for her tides, for her currents, for her waves? It's like trying to tame the ocean. The ocean is pure raw power. It's healing, it's nurturing. It's also what it is. So if there are waves that are 2 miles high and you want to go surfing and you're not skilled enough to surf like that, and you get hurt, broken bones, or you die, you don't blame the fucking ocean. You shouldn't have stepped out in the ocean. You shouldn't have gotten on your surfboard that day thinking you could conquer her. You can't. You can ride the waves and ride with her. Right? You don't know why that turbulence, why the waves are so high, why the storm is there. She's probably moving through transformation, transmutation, metamorphosis. You want to interrupt that process and you get hurt in the meantime by doing so. The feminine, divine feminine energy in her natural state is unapologetic. She's whole. She isn't quiet and subservient and only talks to you in a quiet voice. The feminine, in her wisdom, Sophia, teaches us you cannot force and rush the process of awakening. Patriarchy teaches you, I woke up on this day at this time and I'm fucking woke now. No, you're stupid. You're not even remotely close to being an awakened being when that's what you think. The impatience, the quick fix, dopamine hits, the do it now, 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 now. All of the impatience. Divine feminine is the way of patience. Feminine teaches us to trust what cannot be rushed because you can't force rape culture. Patriarchal culture is rape. Force it, force it, force it. No. Come join me. Follow me. I am the way. That's feminine. I will teach you. I will support you. I will love you. I will punch you in the fucking face when I have to. I am unapologetically going to speak the truth in the most divine, authentic way because you can't evolve. I'm blocking you from your evolution if I don't have the power to do that. That's what divine feminine energy is. And the royal bloodlines that pass these traditions down, that pass these teachings down, these sacred, wise teachings, the bloodlines came from women because women are the ones that lead. They are the midwives. They are the healers. They are the oracles. They are the prophets. Spirit was not separated from the flesh. Divinity isn't separate from your body, which is why you treat your body as a sacred temple. Patriarchy severed you from that. Do you understand? So dragons, the serpent is very symbolic of feminine energy. Those had to be distorted, turned into monsters, things to be afraid of, because they were killing off sacred feminine energy in all humans. Okay? The codes are within. They are offered to you. They are transmitted. They come in all forms, but you have to be willing to wake up for real. Learning how to deal with very subtle energies that are invisible and even hard to feel and detect until you get higher and higher and higher in your teachings of all these. These were part of what was passed down in these priestess lineages. They taught people how to work with energy in a very enlightened, high way. Sensations of the body, feeling the energies through the body, translating them, understanding what these sensations, what these energetic frequencies were, what they were meant for, how to work with them, how to become one with them, how to pull out certain energies that were, oh, that's negative from the collective, that's negative from the, no, we're going to alchemize and heal that. We're going to transform that into a frequency, an enlightened frequency. And then what am I going to do with that frequency? These are the teachings of feminine. These sensations of the body, they were read, translated like sacred scriptures, because that's what they are. They're sacred coding in them. These are the things that were taught from these lineages. So royalty were the priestesses. Bloodlines were the priestesses, the royal priestesses who bled because they were women, and these women taught. And that's why when that existed and patriarchy shows up and tries to dominate and destroy everything, of course these things were banned, controlled, silenced for centuries. Because when humans reclaim this within themselves, you are then impossible to manipulate, you are possible to control, you are possible to enslave, you are impossible to feed off of. You are impossible to fuel the parasitic elite psychopaths and allow them to become those freaking billionaires, to become billionaires or trillionaires. Sacred feminine, divine feminine energy doesn't beg. She doesn't kneel. She doesn't bow to man. She doesn't ask fucking permission. She is what she is, and she doesn't apologize for it. She teaches what she teaches, and at this stage of the game, she is no longer to be silenced. So there are many of you that probably hear and feel the call. You've been getting the messages that there is something more powerful, something more ancient, something more sacred waking up in myself. These are the calls of dragon bloodlines. These are the calls of these ancient teachings, these goddesses, these priestesses that walked the earth, goddesses in human form, dragons for real. The relationship that these priestesses and different people had with actual dragons, with other beings that we call mythical, fake, they're pretend. No, they're not. They worked together and they lived in oneness in enlightened societies until this was desecrated and destroyed and raped and distorted and hidden and kept secret. When you feel these sacred codes, when you feel a call that something is much bigger, more ancient, more powerful, I want to go higher than just simply healing. When you feel that call, that's the invocation of some of these lineages. Like, it's time for us to offer what these are. There are beings here that are here to reignite and offer those teachings. That's how we're going to change this world. That's how we change the world. And I know that a lot of you are feeling that call. There's something deeper. There's something primal. There's something ancient. It's like this sacred, ancient energy that you feel that's like starting to bubble up from deep within. That's that serpent energy. That's the dragon energy. That's that kundalini energy. And again, even kundalini awakening has been completely hijacked in this patriarchal world. Patriarchy is like, let me teach you breath work where you're going to fucking hyperventilate. I'm going to force. Like, the majority of even breath work, like, stop learning from these men who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Truly. Enough's enough. It's time to learn from women. And it doesn't mean that there aren't really beautiful, wonderful men who are awakening for real. But if they're still coming from force and they're still coming from look for the signals, the signs that you shouldn't be listening to them or learning from them. You have to know what to look for. And the only way to know what to look for, if you're coming from your mind, don't bother. Don't waste your energy. You don't come from mind. And again, when you feel what you can feel in another human being with what they're offering, when you learn how to feel and read energy, that's divine feminine. Masculine energy doesn't do that. You understand. You have to get out of your fucking minds all that deep layered brainwashing of what it means to be fucking feminine. It isn't lipstick and tits hanging out and your fucking ass and the shape of it and how big it is and how fuckable you are. None of that is feminine. That was all put together to destroy what feminine energy is. Men are supposed to connect to and get in touch with their sacred feminine energy. That is the only way you heal and rise higher. Masculine energy doesn't transform. It doesn't heal anything. That's not what masculine energy is. It doesn't matter that you're a man. And I know this can be really hard to truly understand all of this, because all of this, we live in the inverted world where you've been nothing but brainwashed. But this is how we undo it. The feminine takes her time and learns and becomes the way of patience and the way of loyalty and all the ways of oneness, because that's sacred feminine energy. You're eternal. You never die. Right? Masculine energy, toxic, distorted, lacking, severing oneness from the feminine. Patriarchal masculine energy teaches you force, now, right now, instant gratification. There's no feminine energy that exists in that. I'm so enlightened. What did you? I'm sorry. You've been working on that for 60 years. How long? You're 22. What the fuck are you talking about? You're already enlightened. 9 out of times that I hear that, that's coming from men. You don't even know what it means to be an enlightened being. And when sacred feminine energy, which you don't even know what it is, if you don't know what it is, and then you're teaching divine masculine, divine feminine, and feminine is soft. Men lead, masculine energy lead. All of it lies, bullshit, inversion. None of it is actually real. You're still in the false matrix. Mixing up, and this is one of the things I'm going to leave you with, mixing up dragon energy with like reptilians and categorizing all of them in the same. It's part of the brainwashing. Dragon energy is one of the most, those beings are one of the most ancient that has ever been in the start of things being created by the one light, the original creator of all that is. That goddess, creating more beings from her essence, giving birth to beings and other things that exist that are, fragments of her in energetic form, in the form of just consciousness, in matter, in forming matter, and in different beings. Everything comes from her. And dragons are one of the original creations. They're one of the oldest, most ancient beings that exist, far before beings that look like us and anything that you call human being. They're one of the most ancient creations. They are ancient. They are wise. They are sacred. They are powerful. And there's all kinds of them that exist. Ones that are far bigger than any planet that you can think of, and ones that are massive, what we would consider massive, the size of mountains, that can exist within a planet like Earth. And then, of course, smaller ones and all varying sizes. There are all kinds and all types. Reptilians are not dragons. Those beings are not pleasant, lovely, kind, nice beings. Those beings are part of beings that are patriarchal and here to dominate and suck the life out of everybody and do the evil, dark things that they do. Dragons are not that. And snakes, serpent energy, dragon energy, serpent energy, kundalini energy, all those things are kind of intertwined. Those are all things that have been removed from the feminine, original planet Earth, the creator of all that is. These things have been removed, distorted, twisted, making you afraid of them because they want you afraid of the feminine so that you will dominate over her. Anything that represents the divine feminine in a patriarchal world wants you to dominate, silence, demonize, call her a witch, shut her up, rape her, abuse her, oppress her. So I hope this was a little bit enlightening. Remember, the feminine isn't chaotic energy. It's undomesticated. She isn't one to be tamed. She is actually the original fuck around and find out energy. Where do you think that comes from? We thought it was Gen X. God, we love to take credit for shit. She's the original. Okay. I challenge you. Goddesses, Lilith, Hecate, Sophia, Tiamat. I could go on and on. Kali. Like there's so many. I challenge you to stop looking at them especially ones that are deemed as like vicious, violent monsters. Medusa. Oh my gosh. Like we just change the truth of everything. We distort it. That's what patriarchy has done. So I'm going to say that over and over. And I challenge you now, what the parasitic elite classes ruling this world and dominating and enslaving this world, what they do when they take things like bloodlines, royalty, and they invert it. I hope you have a better understanding of what bloodline, what they stole from. They inverted it and created something horrible with it. But the original bloodlines came from women because women are the ones that bleed. That's where the term bloodline comes from. It is not about men and women getting married and having kids and heterosexuals having families and blah, blah, blah. That has nothing to do with anything. Bloodlines. They are lineages led by powerful, sacred teachers that are women, because women are the ones who bleed. That's where bloodlines come from. The original ones. That's what patriarchy stole from and distorted. Royalty were the royal women who led these societies of oneness, because they were the highest ones, like the most sacred teachers, the wisest oracles and prophets and messiahs and avatars and all the things. Those teachers of those societies, the one that led those societies, but they led from oneness. That was what royalty was. Do you understand how they took that, stole it, distorted it, inverted it, and turned it into this fucked up shit that we see today? Dragons were turned into monsters. Snakes were something to be afraid of. What? If you're afraid of snake, then you'll be afraid of, oh, I don't trust Kundalini, teachings of Kundalini, serpent energy. What is that? Oh, no, that's witchcraft. Oh, no. Like, you see what they've done over the centuries? So that you don't trust anything that is actual representation of the feminine. Dragons, whether they are male dragons or female dragons, they're all feminine because they're oneness. All right? So I'm going to leave it there. We're already an hour and 15 minutes into this episode. I really hope that helps you understand what all this stuff actually means, or what was stolen from, what patriarchy stole from, what they inverted and distorted, and heal, alchemize, and transform all of those things. When you hear these things and you get triggered and activated, now you know what to remove and heal. Okay? It isn't about, let me say this, because this is part of the damn trap. It isn't about get rid of royalty. Whoa, hold on. Get rid of fucking patriarchy and their inversion of royalty. We need to bring royalty back. Bloodlines, evil, crazy, psycho. Yeah, the patriarchal ones. They stole from bloodlines, sacred bleeding of women. All of the teachings around that. Women are the bleeders. We bleed without dying. And those teachers, we are the ones that carry the bloodlines of these things, the dragon bloodlines and other ones that exist. Okay? That is what is being brought back. When you feel that ancient energy being activated inside of you, that call, it's something much more powerful, something much more ancient, something much bigger and grander than me. Like, oh, but I am also it. Not bigger, grander, like superior than you. Patriarchy wants you to believe that shit. It's not how this stuff works in truth, as the way of truth. Remember that. So my invitation, there's an invocation here to really feel the sacred codes of this stuff and start to discern and separate out in a divine way the bullshit from patriarchy that keeps you mind controlled and trapped and staying small and unhealed, and in misogynistic patriarchal cycles that do nothing but sever, destroy, desecrate, rape, and objectify and demonize the divine feminine. Every single thing that exists in that has got to go. That's not New Earth. Okay? And activate within yourself. Allow yourself, invite yourself. Remember, men, activate in your heart chakra. Women, start in your heart chakra. If you are a student at MSU and you've been learning a lot of stuff on a much higher level than what I can offer here in the podcast, then you can start to place your hands on your womb and go there. If a lot of stuff comes up, because I don't do the womb activations early on at all for women. And the reason why I don't do that is because there's so much trauma. Most people haven't gone through the proper channels. Most women haven't gone through the proper channels to learn how to alchemize and heal those traumas. So when you start activating womb stuff, the severity of the trauma of being raped and murdered and burned alive and raped more and oppressed, the level of oppression in women, stuff comes up massively. When you haven't done enough heart chakra work and you haven't done enough, everything that we teach at MSU. So I don't teach that first or early on for a reason for women. Women, if you've gone through some of those things, I hope you've healed a lot, learning womb stuff from other people. If you are more traumatized or it feels devastating or it feels like I can't handle this, it's probably because they're not teaching you in a sequential order you should be taught. It's like trying to teach a baby to run and they're not even crawling yet. It just doesn't make sense. I am the way of wisdom. I teach in levels and layers. You master this one and then you go higher and you expand more and you go up the levels. Because guess what? As I carry the lineage, one of the lineages that I talk about, and this is how we teach and why we teach this way. We teach in a very sacred way, not to become smarter, to embody and become a more evolved being. These are what the old priestesses, this is how they taught. It is wisdom, and it is honoring, and it is loving, and it is harmlessness and gentleness. It is the safer way to teach. If you don't know what you're doing and you lack integrity, and you lack wisdom, you can't be harmlessness and gentleness. So you're going to teach haphazardly because you feel special and important and you make a lot of money doing it. If I have women's circles and blah, blah, blah. That's not how priestesses teach. That's not how true, actual oracles and prophets and messiahs and all these beings and healers that used to come together, these priestesses used to come together and teach all this stuff. They don't teach haphazardly. They teach in a sacred way because they're sacred themselves, because they embody the sacredness of what they teach. They've already become it. And that was lost, desecrated, destroyed, and hidden for centuries. It's back now. It's back. But you have to be willing to learn it and become it yourself. And if you're not, that's okay. Move on. But it's back. It is here. All right, this podcast episode is long enough. If you want to learn more and you want to dive in and become, go to mastersofselfuniversity.com. This is what this metaphysical, incredible school of oneness, the mystery schools of all mystery schools, because it is the hidden stuff that they have been desecrating, destroying, stealing, murdering, burning, raping for centuries. It's all here. Are you willing to become? If so, go to mastersofselfuniversity.com. Consider enrolling as a student. If not, enjoy all the free stuff you can get because we put it out for a reason. Happy awakening for real. Thanks for listening. See you in the next one.